He was alone, while Xie Ran had 2 vehicles and over 30 people along with supplies. If a fight broke out, he could retreat if needed. With nothing to lose, he could easily set a vehicle ablaze. As long as Xie Ran wasn't foolish, he wouldn't risk losing benefits just for pride. The more Wang Cheng used force to threaten, the more Xie Ran would have to back down. Because Wang Cheng's displayed power was strong enough, Xie Ran couldn't afford to lose. After a moment of shifting expressions, Xie Ran finally gritted his teeth and said, "We never said we wouldn't trade. What we mentioned earlier was just a suggestion. Seeing your exceptional strength, we wanted you to join us. Since you're unwilling, let us proceed with the normal trade." Xie Ran was furious and wished he could kill Wang Cheng on the spot. However, as Wang Cheng had assessed, he could not afford such losses. The 2 vehicles, supplies, weapons, and even the beautiful women and brothers he had accumulated through blood and fire during this apocalyptic period were too valuable. Wang Cheng was clearly not easy to deal with. Even if Xie Ran managed to kill him, given Wang Cheng's displayed combat power, he would at least have to burn through 1 vehicle's worth of people and supplies. And he might end up dead himself. The losses would be too great to bear. A direct confrontation was out of the question. Therefore, he had to resort to patience. Following Wang Cheng's lead and finding a way to back down gracefully, Xie Ran stared at Wang Cheng, his eyes nearly spitting fire. Although he had chosen to endure for now, his heart was filled with resentment. He thought to himself that a wise man does not suffer immediate losses. He would wait for the chaos of the apocalypse when everyone would be too busy taking care of themselves. And he would find an opportunity to take revenge and eliminate this person. No matter how strong Wang Cheng was, there would always be moments of injury or distraction. When that time came, Wang Cheng squinted at him. He could see through Xie Ran's thoughts and simply said, "Hand over the ammunition, old Wang. You take care of this. Let us start with the goods. Brother Xie, you don't mind, right?" Okay. Wang Qi was momentarily stunned, suddenly snapping back to reality, and hurriedly stepped forward to retrieve a heavy box of ammunition. Wang Cheng glanced at it, confirming that it contained real bullets, and let out a sigh of relief as he picked up the bag of medicine he had prepared earlier. However, his movement paused slightly. He looked at the barely contained anger of Xie Ran, fell silent for a moment, then placed the bag back down and only took out a box of anti-inflammatory medicine to hand over to Wang Qi for delivery to the other party. Wang Qi was bewildered. He had been in a state of panic while fleeing with the main force, still recovering from the shock of being saved by Wang Cheng. Now, as a middleman, he was even more confused, just following Wang Cheng's instructions as he had done in the school's supermarket. But when Xie Ran received the box of medicine, his expression suddenly changed. "Brother, what do you mean by this? We agreed on 1 medicine for 1 bullet. Are you going back on your word?" Wang Cheng's expression remained unchanged as he replied with a faint smile, "How is this going back on my word? I simply changed my mind. Medicine is precious. You're getting a box of ammunition in exchange, which is a great deal for you. Why not join me? If you need medicine in the future, I'll provide it for free." Wang Cheng's maneuver was a direct counter to the tactics Xie Ran had just used against him. Xie Ran's face instantly turned ugly, his fists clenched tightly. Wang Cheng was doing this on purpose. He wanted to provoke Xie Ran into taking action against him. Xie Ran clearly harbored resentment. Why should he give the other party so much medicine? By forcing Xie Ran into a rage, he could directly deal with him right there. If Xie Ran attacked first, he could counterattack, and even if the military got involved, they couldn't place all the blame on him. After all, he was only retaliating. Xie Ran was the one who had acted violently. Rather than wait for Xie Ran to take revenge, it was better to resolve this once and for all now. Wang Cheng squinted his eyes as he watched Wang Qi get back into the vehicle. He was prepared. If Xie Ran attempted to strike, he would immediately seal off the warship. With the strength of his warship, a mere ordinary awakener would never be able to break through his defenses. However, at that moment, a honking sound came from the side. A military vehicle approached, and a young soldier who had previously spoken with Wang Cheng jumped out and said, "Are you the awakener who just made a move? Please come with us. Our battalion commander wants to see you." Upon hearing this, both Wang Cheng and Xie Ran were taken aback. Xie Ran had indeed been ready to strike. He had not reached his current standing by playing by the rules and had used all sorts of tough methods. Being pushed to this extent by Wang Cheng, he could no longer hold back. But the arrival of the military felt like a bucket of cold water, instantly dousing his anger. The military must have taken a liking to this guy's strength and wanted to invite him. If the military personnel took him away, wouldn't that be digging at the roots of authority? Despite Xie Ran's arrogance, he did not dare to confront the military. Upon hearing that the commander of the military convoy, Commander Zhang, wanted to meet Wang Cheng, his anger diminished significantly. "Well then, brother, if that's the case, I'll sell these things to you." "You go ahead," Xie Ran conceded. Wang Cheng glanced at him and felt a bit regretful for not being able to eliminate him once and for all at that moment. Xie Ran was quite lucky. However, Wang Cheng could not refuse Commander Zhang's invitation. He immediately got into his vehicle and followed the young soldier's vehicle, heading towards the front of the fleeing convoy, where Zhang Rui's team was located. Behind him, watching Wang Cheng leave, Xie Ran gritted his teeth, a hint of resentment flashing in his eyes. Don't think I'll just accept this loss. Today you were lucky. Even if you join the military, with the current chaos, I'll always have the chance to take you down. Chapter 64. Plenty of benefits. The scale of the fleeing convoy grew larger, but the speed of progress became increasingly slow and cumbersome. Survivors and their vehicles were crammed together, most of them looking disheveled and in dire straits. At this time, those with vehicles were better off than those without. Those without vehicles and injuries were better off than those who were injured and without vehicles. Some were managing to escape relatively smoothly, while others were already in a pitiful state, struggling to keep up with the fleeing crowd. In the face of disaster and turmoil, everyone was on edge, and no one could afford to care for anyone else. Even the military could at most ensure everyone's safety, but could do no more. The military's manpower was also stretched thin. Zhang Rui's team had merged with several others, replenishing soldiers and equipment, but the number of survivors was also increasing. In comparison, their reinforcements felt like a drop in the bucket and could not bring about any substantial change. The entire convoy continued to move forward with great difficulty. On the outskirts of the crowded survivor flow, the military had set up mobile defenses, continuously blocking the mutated beings that surged from both sides. Wang Cheng had yet to notice any of this within the convoy. At that moment, following the military vehicle of the small soldier ahead and leaving the main convoy of survivors, he noticed that there were indeed quite a few mutated creatures surrounding them, howling incessantly and launching continuous assaults on their convoy. Their target was too large to avoid attacks. Moving through the city was like presenting a massive feast to those mutated beings, drawing them in to attack the convoy. If it were an ordinary group of survivors, they would have likely collapsed under such pressure long ago. However, Zhang Rui's troops were armored forces with formidable firepower, capable of holding their ground. Even if those mutated creatures were robust, a barrage of 20mm cannon rounds would leave them in a bloody mess. Relatively speaking, it was still safe. Of course, this scene might be incredibly terrifying for other survivors, but as Wang Cheng watched, he began to entertain other thoughts. With so many monsters around, wasn't this a great opportunity to level up? He squinted his eyes. There was no need to seek out the mutated creatures. They were coming to them in droves. If he hid within the military formation and fired outward, wouldn't that be an easy way to collect energy points? The danger was significantly reduced, while the gains in efficiency were greatly increased. Wang Cheng could roughly guess why Zhang Rui's hens sought him out. He initially intended to refuse, as he hadn't figured out how to cooperate with the military. However, seeing the unfolding scenes along the way, he started to reconsider. They were still advancing when Wang Qi, sitting in the passenger seat next to Wang Cheng, finally spoke up, his expression somewhat awkward. Brother Wang Cheng, you're really something now, aren't you? I can't thank you enough for just now. You saved my life. Otherwise, I might have really died. Wang Qi had wanted to talk to Wang Cheng for a long time. Initially, he couldn't find the words due to the shock of just coming back from the brink of death, but now that he was gradually calming down, his feelings were a mix of complexity and surprise. He had witnessed everything that had just happened. Wang Cheng was incredible. Wang Qi was aware that those people earlier were part of a survivor group of over 30, exchanging medicines and supplies. In such a group, only those with strength would dare to trade with others. Yet just now, Wang Cheng had directly engaged in a strong-arm deal with them, and that Xie Ran had actually endured it, taking down the mutated frogs with ease and treating Xie Ran and the others domineeringly. Such scenes were beyond Wang Qi's imagination. During this time, he had been living in a miserable state, at the bottom of the survivor hierarchy, running away from monsters and avoiding survivors like Xie Ran. He had once thought about being able to shine like other formidable survivors, becoming someone significant in this apocalyptic world. That feeling was not something he had never experienced. At the second supermarket of Haicheng University, he followed closely behind Wang Cheng and experienced something remarkable. At that time, he merely felt happy, not realizing the significance of it all. However, after leaving Haicheng and encountering more people and events, he came to understand just how rare everything had been back then. Not only was the scenery beautiful, but even the supplies were incredibly precious. In fact, if he hadn't taken advantage of Wang Cheng's light to secure those supplies, he might not have made it this far. It was only just now, upon seeing Wang Cheng again, that he felt that thrill once more. Following Wang Cheng, he unleashed his strength against Xie Ran and his group. The most critical part was that the opponents dared not retaliate. They could only suffer in silence, as a mere turn of the head led to them being escorted away by military personnel. Just moments ago, he was at the bottom of the survivor hierarchy. Yet now he found himself in such a position. Wang Qi felt as if he were dreaming, looking at Wang Cheng with a complex expression. He understood that these changes were solely due to his acquaintance with Wang Cheng, who had lent him a helping hand. Nothing more than that. In this apocalyptic world, How could the gap between people be so vast? Wang Qing glanced at him,